Happy Friday, everybody. I don't have an April Fool's joke for you. Anything that I would try would come out being super predictable or jinx myself, right? Like you could say something awful, jinx yourself. Happy April Fool's Day. I hope nobody pulled any horrific jokes on you. It is the one day of the year where it is sort of acceptable, but I'm falling apart. We're going to have a great show, but I'll tell you, I've got two things going on tonight for coffee time. One of them is my glass of wine, and the other is my cough syrup. And I am fine. I am not sick. But you know how I got the book in on time. It was due yesterday. I got it in at 10 p.m. So not exactly on time, but close enough. And you know how when you have a big deadline, something that has truly, truly been awful, as soon as you're done with it, like a big push at work or whatever, or as Judy Taylor said today, keep pushing the rock. It's so funny. You know, when you get done with something like that, your body then wants to shut down. It has been 5 or 6 months of proper agony, and my body just wants to shut down. I got like, as soon as I turned it in, I went and laid with Ted, and we were trying to fall asleep and stuff, and started to get a sore throat and stuff. And I thought, don't do it. I cannot shut down yet because I'm teaching on Sunday. I'm teaching on Amish toothbrush on Sunday on Cape Cod, and I have got to be there for it. So cheers, my dears. Cough syrup is as good as anything. And don't worry, I am not driving any heavy machinery at all, like at all. Just my body down the stairs and hopefully like on my feet, you know. I do love medicine, I have to say. My favorite is Pepto-Bismol. I would be in trouble if they created a cocktail that featured Pepto-Bismol because not only would I feel great after a heavy meal, but I just love that chalky, terrible taste of it that most people hate. I love it. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm a little bit crazy tonight. I'm doing shots of medicine on the air, so that's not good, is it? Carol, happy Friday from Wisconsin. Oh, I'm happy. I'm happy just to see you. Thank you so much. And Robin, also my buddies in Wisconsin, thank you so much. Robin, remind me what that candy was that you sent. Can you just remind me that? I mean, I ate it all immediately, and I should have saved the wrapper. The thing from Wisconsin, it was like a cow thing on the label or something. It was so good. What made me think about it was I got a surprise box from Kaz yesterday. Could not have come at a better time. It was a beautiful box. I'll show you next time I'm on because she ice dyed with ice a couple of beautiful silk scarves. So I'm going to wear one for spring and Jocelyn's going to wear one and we're going to be matching. And it is so pretty. We'll talk more about that in a minute because ice dyeing is so much fun. And of course, silk takes so well to dyes, right? So such a beautiful thing. And she sent two huge solid chocolate eggs, a specific brand. It was like a bakery brand. I want to say Schmoodle or something like that. It wasn't, but it was something like that. SCH something. Two solid eggs that were it said made with real Wisconsin butter. And I gave them to the kids. And these kids, there isn't one thing on earth food-wise that they have in common. Not even like McDonald's fries. Like one likes Burger King, the other likes McDonald's. They cannot agree on anything, and they both loved these eggs. But I just let them take a sliver off because it was basically like the equivalent of a pot roast of candy. And even taking slivers off were decadent. It was so good. I snuck some. They'll never know. But it was so good. And it made me think of that other candy that I got that was so good. Karen, thank you so much in Black Forest, Colorado. I am so happy this book is done. If you're joining us for the first time, you haven't followed the saga of this, but it has been brutal. It has been so hard. And you know, you would think that after a giant project like this that eclipsed my life in every way, brought me down health-wise at many intervals. It was just because you know what else it is having a big overarching heavy overwhelming project at this time of year. Because when you think about it, if you know, I was working on it in the fall and winter, but this last push to get the hardest parts out at this time of year was an extra uphill because it's like the worst time of the year, isn't it? It's like finally now at TJ Maxx they're putting out like mirrored sunglasses and tank tops and tie-dye things, and I think, yeah, I'm not a summer person, but I can't wait for spring and summer to come, right? And then after spring and summer come, it'll be so nice when it's the holidays again. It'll be so nice when it's Christmas time again. But it's just these few months are so hard for so many of us. I know you too. I know a lot of people have been struggling during this time, but it has been a titanic task. Um, and at the end of the day, you would think I would be super relieved, just falling down with relief. And I am, but at the same time, I'm just overwhelmed with this feeling of being PO'd. Like I did so much work in 5 months. I made 14 original rugs with exclusive patterns. I did hundreds of pages of commentary that I'm sure will wheedle down, but it's all there. I synthesized photos. Because I reached out to so many people in our group and tried to use your work. That was one of the main reasons I wanted to do this. Got all the photos. I took like almost all the photos myself. My sister did the illustrations, and we did hundreds of hand photos. It was so much that when I think about it, I get super PO'd, and it's not the right response, but it must just be a crazy knee-jerk feeling just coming off of, hitting the send button less than 24 hours ago. I will let you know when the next thing happens. It's supposed to be out in August, and that will be a lot of fun, and that might result in some travel and some other fun stuff. But Rug Cooking Magazine already wrote last week to say, remember, you're going to do a book for us too, which is great. But I hadn't sent the first book yet, and I started to get, so we'll see, because I had two great ideas for a book for Rug Cooking Magazine, because that would be specifically, I always like to do more than one type of rug technique, and I don't mean hooking and punching. I mean a few different things, because a lot of us love the penny rugs and the applique, latch. A lot of people like different things, and I like to represent all the different things that people like, at least a little bit. So I had a couple of what I thought were stellar ideas for them. So I'll be talking to Deborah this week, the editor, and we'll decide what idea we're going to go for, and that will be the next project. But I will not be feeling like this, like I have been feeling, because it was huge scope. And thank you hugely to everybody who sent work in and who volunteered work that I could use. Because again, the main thing with doing this project, and the only reason two reasons I said yes to it. One is because this book is going to be very visible at Barnes and Noble and Michael's and Joann's and all those big stores. And often rug cooking material is not. So because this is a book with 14 different techniques, it will be very visible. And my hope is really that people who wouldn't necessarily pick up a rug hooking book or even be able to find one will see this book and maybe pick it up and maybe start checking out different kinds of rugging and different techniques. That's my big hope. And the second reason was, of course, because we have this huge group. Our Facebook is Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club. We're heading toward 10,000, which is the largest rug group in this country. And we have such talent in the group. I so wanted to be able to use your work. There's some of my stuff in it, but it's mostly your stuff, because it's a vehicle for you, for people who don't submit things to Celebration Magazine, or they do and it didn't work out or whatever. Forget it. This stuff is going to get published in this book, and it'll be so nice to see your stuff in there. And I'm so happy for everybody whose pieces will be in there. And I'm so happy it's done. Cheers, my dears. Now I'm going to switch from cough medicine to wine. Classy, huh? Oh, thanks, Linda. Thumbs up. It is a fabulous channel. I'm often off my chain, but it is fabulous, and I have such a good episode for you tonight. Hope I can get through it without getting drowsy. Mom, good to see you. Wild times have quieted down a little bit. A little bit. I was supposed to also turn in this week. I probably told you I'm teaching at Green Mountain in November, and my idea for a project is a Prati project. Very exciting kind of New Year theme, because I thought it could take people through the holidays. I didn't get that in, but Suze is so nice there. She understood it's a very tough week for me. I'm about halfway done. I won't be able to show you that because I'm sure they're going to want to premiere that project and that image first, and that will be something for November. You know what else I want to show you before I forgot? I forgot to show you this the other day. Lisa, you sent me some stuff after last Friday night's show, right? Lisa sent me some links after the show. We had our crazy 80s night, remember? Good thing I wasn't drinking cough medicine then, because I might have given myself an asymmetrical haircut, just like back in the day. And then we wouldn't be laughing now. I would be crying and blubbering because I had done that. Better judgment last week. But after the show, it was a fun show. Lisa sent some links, and one of these things is so scruffy, but I still had to get it. It was like $10, and then the shipping was more than the rug. But this is I don't know if this is an original Blue Nose or if it's just a copy of, but this is so funny to me. See if this strikes you in the same way. I think it actually is an original that has just been done in a very beginner stylized graphic, even 1980s way. Let me stand up here. It is the Three Bears. You know, and who's to say that when you do a pattern like this that you must do it with all of the shading and the steam coming off their little porridge pots or whatever? You don't have to. This is a super Swatch Watch style Three Bears, right? It's so cute. I thought it was funny. I thought it was a bit of a pop art version of the classic Three Bears rug that we all know and love. Um, and I just thought it was like $9.99 plus shipping, and I thought I have got to get that. I'm going to hang that up, and it's going to remind me that at least while we're doing our rugging, and at least while we're having our hobby, maybe not in the broader world, anything goes, right? Anything goes. You like it, your style, your way, perfect. Nobody ever has anything to say about that. Somebody made that, and they probably absolutely loved it. So I am loving it. I'll put it up behind me at the studio. Aileen, oh, thank you so much. Donna, yippee-ki-yay, absolutely. I'm ready. I'm ready to ride like a wild pony right now, right off the horizon with my cough medicine bottle. Oh, got your pear smoothie with creme de coco. I love creme de coco. We always have that cacao. I think I'm supposed to say. We always have that with our grasshoppers. Creme de cacao, creme de menthe, and just cream or half and half. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, Becky, happy Friday. Oh, thank you so much. It does feel so good. It feels good now that I'm with you and we're talking about it, because all day it's just been continued drudge, Thank you. It's our project together, and I'm really happy it is out the door. I know there's going to be galleys and there's going to be more rounds, but there is so much content that has been sent that there can't possibly be a need for any further content. So yeah, thank you for celebrating with me. Teresa, good to see you. Doreen, good to see you. I hope so. I have this like little pipe dream. I shouldn't talk about your dreams, right? Because they're always so silly. But I have this pipe dream that the publisher would call or something and say, "This is like so 14 years old. Like, oh, this is the best-selling book we've ever had. Great job, congratulations." I keep thinking that. Probably not. They have a lot of big titles, Fox Chapel, and it probably won't. But it's one of those things that I think about, and I think, wouldn't that be great if that happened? Oh, it would be so good. Oh, Teresa, hello from Minnesota. First time. Oh, great. And I've been talking crazy this whole time. You are so welcome. And I'm going to get serious in a minute. Great to see you, Teresa. April, great to see you. Thank you so much. Sandra, thank you so much. I'm getting all the congrats. Dorian, I hope I said happy Friday. Cheers, my dears. Thank you so much. It was epic. That is the perfect word for it. Epic. And a little bit of dying and a little bit of inspiration and all this stuff at the end. It is so much. I honestly can't believe I got it done. I'm going to stop. I was looking at photos of the files of things that I had sent like 4 months ago, and I didn't even recognize the photos because I was taking so many photos so fast, sometimes 100 or 200 a day, going through them. I don't even recognize them because it was so much for so long. It's crazy, isn't it? It's just crazy. Oh, well, Barbara, good to see you. Thank you. It is such a great group, April. It is such a great group. Huge welcome to Teresa. It's always nice to have a new buddy on. Joan, great to see you. I'm going to send you some messages again on Monday. I'm getting my feet under me again. As soon as this teaching is done on Sunday, the Amish toothbrush in Dennis, Cape Cod. If you're on the Cape, I'm teaching Amish toothbrush. I was downstairs ripping up a bunch of dyed sheets and stuff. Everyone's going to get a giant pile of colorful sheets. In a big foam square like that you put on the floor that interlock, for kids' playrooms and stuff. The hardwood Amish toothbrush, I get them from Etsy because he does a really good job. This guy's got really strong ones. And what else? Like pins and things like that. Little scissors. I got the whole kit going, but it's all going to be this big pile of colorful cotton, all recycled, because that's a big thing with this particular technique. The Amish toothbrush is the recycling part of it, right? Because you don't want to spend $700 on batiks because the rug takes that much material. All of this stacked up on one of these big foam blocks with a bow on top. I'm going to be so happy and proud to give one to each person as they come into the classroom, and we'll get going on our toothbrush rugs. It'll be a lot of fun. Oh, Lisa, cheers. Your husband made wine. Your husband made wine that tasted like cherry cough syrup. That sounds good. A lot of wines do, the really strong bodied ones. Oh, Lauren, thank you so much. Done with the book. Done and dusted. That's the, well, it's not exactly, but it kind of is. Sharon, thank you so much. Oh, Whitney, happy Friday. Yeah, so it is, I'll talk a little bit about it, then I'll stop because I feel like I'm driving you crazy if you've already heard about it. But it is a book on rag rugs, not just hooked rugs. So it's 14 different types of rug making. And there's an exclusive pattern for ones that have it, like braided obviously doesn't, but I did something fancy for that too. I did a 4 strand that ended in an 8 strand. So there, everything is like told. It's not a how-to book, right? I've mentioned this before. It does show you how to, but it's as much of a how-to book as, for example, Amy Oxford's books are. They do tell you how to do the thing you're looking at, but it is 90% gallery and inspiration book. And so the 14 different techniques and things that have like a picture to it, those are exclusive patterns to the book, and they are my favorite patterns that I've done so far. I'm real proud of the work that I did in this book. It just tells you everything that you need to know about each technique and how the techniques cross. And at the end, it talks a little bit about dyeing. It's not like book length material for each subject, because then it would be like, a set of encyclopedias. But it is a lot about designing and commercial patterns, and it's great for a beginner coming to any form of rug making. But it's to encourage people to experiment with rugging and to know more than one style. And it's definitely rug hooking heavy because that's my favorite. But it was really a lot of fun. The timeline was just too tight. It was an impossible timeline, and I should have never said yes. And it was my own fault because I always like to say yes when I can, and I did say yes. And then once you do, you're really stuck. But sometimes I think most of us do, right? You say yes to things that you really should think about for a while first, and before you're all, committed. Or else you need to be committed, which is where I got to pretty soon. Oh, Nancy, good to see you. Three bears would be great for a child's room. I'm going to put it back in the bag. I didn't see any moths or anything, but I'm always careful when something new comes into the house that there's no possibility of it being all mothy. Oh, Teresa says, I've written several books. The last one realized that the last chapter should have been the intro chapter. Too late. Yeah, for the publisher to change it. It wasn't till it was done. But Teresa, it's like everything else. Like, that, and you're thinking that would have been a better fit in the cart before the horse, or the horse before. But at the end of the day, I'm sure all of the information was there. I'm sure people relished it all. I'm sure everybody that bought the book was smart enough and inspired enough to put it together in their mind, right, in the right order. So I wouldn't even think of that, right? That's just one of those. There's so many of those for me in this book too that I just have to let it go. Otherwise, I would say, oh, the Pride chapter. Well, I'd like to use this. I just, at this point, I'm not a let it go person, but I have to be at peace with letting it go because I'm already thinking about the next project, like this coming week. So it's just one of those things, isn't it, Teresa? We all feel like that with everything, but it's good to find a way to be at peace. I know that's easier said than done. I know. Wendy, thank you. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun when it comes out, and you'll see a lot of your work in it. A lot of people in the group in there represented. So that will be a lot of fun. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm supposed to say. Oh, okay. So if you're a Patreon member, thank you for your support, Patreon members. I really appreciate it. And I realize that I bagged out of quite a lot of episodes, especially in the last month of coffee time and cocktail time. Because I have a real problem with depression, which is now lifting a little with spring, and that paired with the demands of this book and the kids being sick and not COVID, but just in and out all the time and picking them up and dropping them off. It's been so much that I've just been ready to be committed, like quite a few times, just ready and willing to go to Bedlam and just be taken away. So I am so sorry about those missed episodes, but I am back and I will be making them up too. I will not be missing episodes anymore. I'll probably stick with Monday, Wednesday, Fridays because that works real well, and doing a lot of videos in between, which I have not had time to do yet, but I will do a lot of videos in between, including special ones for the Patreon members. But Patreon people, you know that you can expect a message from me the first of every month, no matter how busy I am. So today I just put out right before the show the pattern for the month. I'm going to show that to you. It is an exclusive to Patreon members. Let me bring it up here. I thought it was super cute. And I should have also put the rug that I was inspired to do it with, because I I was looking at an antique rug that I showed you on Coffee Time over the summer, this past summer, and it was a sewn rug. And that's the reason I bought it, because I wanted us to look at the back of it and see the difference between what sewing looks like on a sewn rug versus hooking on a hooked rug. So I'll show you that when I'll make a post on Facebook, but this is what the image is. So this was the free pattern for Patreon members. So if you are a Patreon member and you did not get that message from me at about a couple hours ago, it hasn't been that long, let me know. So that I haven't decided what colors I'm doing mine in. I plan to hook this the week of Easter. I like to hook on the holiday, not before, because I know I'm never going to finish it anyway in terms of like the edges. So I did a light one and I did a dark one, and I'm kind of leaning toward the dark one. I didn't go full blast Easter, but as with anything, I always hope that if you do this pattern, that you do it exactly the way that you want it. Forget about my colors. You do it the way that you want it and make it yours completely, and that will make me the happiest. Your bedlam would be joyous. Yeah, I was with my mom overnight last weekend, and I was looking at some of these retreats, Mercy by the Sea, and some of these things. Take the edge off and kind of bring it back down to what's important, and streamlining, calibrating your thoughts after crazy times, Teresa, that's a good question. I should probably have a link. Does anybody know? I think you just Google Patreon, Patreon. If anybody has more information, you can put it in the thread or a link. That would be super helpful. But the website is called Patreon, and it's like you become like a patron of something that you support, and in this case, it's the channel. So I was able to buy some books today and yesterday to bring us through the next couple of weeks of Coffee Time with my Patreon money, and I thank you for that because it really helps. And I love being here with you and doing that, and I will do that always, no matter what. So cute. Oh, thanks, Kaz. So, while I was finishing up the book, I had spoken to my buddy, Margaret Arraj, Arraj. I know that's a tough one. And her company is called Mill River Rugs. Now, I did a video visiting Margaret. It might have been 2020. It might have been 2021, but I did a video and I posted it on our channel. And Mill River Rugs, so you can look at that later if you want. I'm due to go visit her again because she moved out of that spot at the mill to the town of Leeds, Massachusetts. So I'll go and visit her there for sure. Cindy, I hope so. I hope so. I still have so much to do. That's the thing. It's still so much, and I don't want to drop balls, and I don't want to be missing from Coffee Time because this is my time to connect, right? So as much as I hate missing episodes, because this is my time to connect with you, and this is grown-up time for me. So as soon as I open that door, there's going to be someone sitting on the toilet and someone spitting toothpaste into the sink, and it's going to be mayhem and chaos. This is my happy time. So it's just a lot. It's just a lot. We'll figure it out together, right? Maybe I'll hire somebody else to help me out. So I was looking at Margaret's rugs again, and that's what we're going to do tonight. We'll probably have a couple of episodes of looking at Margaret's rugs. I've covered so many artists on this show, and we'll continue to cover more. Hopefully you too. I should have covered Margaret a long time ago. The reason that I thought about her for tonight was because I was finishing up the inspiration part at the end of the book. And I had already spoken to her and said, when I think about a rug hooking artist, she hooks with yarn, right? When I think of a rug hooking artist who pulls from many sources of inspiration, the first person that I think about is Margaret at Mill River. Wait till you see the scope, the breadth, the variety of inspiration that she uses for her images. It is remarkable. It's like she is an encyclopedia, a world art encyclopedia. Any stupid messages on my phone? TikTok. What could I want with TikTok? Oh, okay, great. There's a link to Patreon in the description of this video. Oh, okay, thank you. Awesome. I don't even know what's in my video. I just cut and paste on top of it. I'm so bad. So when I was thinking about Margaret, I was thinking, man, this is so much. And let's get started. But I cannot tell you, this is the first episode on Mill River because I want to look at more of her rugs another time, but it's a lot of rugs. And as you can imagine, when we're talking about different inspiration, different sources for inspiration, I could not resist going down the rabbit hole, like Watership Down, boom, right down, endless tunnel to the center of the earth, crazy side trip. So we're going to take some of these side trips together tonight, and it is going to be so much fun. So let's just look. when I think about Margaret's style, let's just preface this and let's revisit it in the thread as we go on. Her style is technically spectacular. Creatively, her color substitutions and color choices that she makes, she is a magician with color. But it's hard for me to pinpoint her style because her inspiration comes from so many different cultures and time periods. And that is exciting. That means we're about to go on a trip, not just around the world, but through time. So a trip around the world in a time travel machine. It's so much. It's so good. So let's start looking at some of these images, and please pop up into the comments with your ideas and your thoughts on them, and stop me at any point because I want us to do this together and enjoy together. So here's the first one that I found. This is all by her. By the way, her site. Just looking for better glasses here. Her site. She's got an Etsy store. Mill River Rugs, but also a website. And I think she said her daughter's working on the website, but it's up. So those two places you can see her gallery. It's tons and tons and tons. And like I said, hopefully in a month or so, I'll go back to her studio and we can look at some of these rugs in person too and talk to her about making the rugs. So this one is called Bluebirds. And again, all of these are hand-hooked rugs and she works in yarn. So this one is 12 by 25. And in this case, the source for this design is an embroidery from 1905 that she found at the Museum of Domestic Design and Architecture, right? So this definitely looks like a 1905 piece, doesn't it? It's like Art Nouveau coming toward Deco, two bluebirds. Look at this great composition. You've got these Padula type flowers up in the vines, but the whole thing is kind of anchored by the trio of tulip type flowers. Very symmetrical birds, similar shape but facing in opposite directions. Great color choice. It really strikes me as like a book plate or an illustration for a book or a panel of wallpaper. I like that she left the border black. I like to see all of these green kind of filigree lines, some of them broken like it's a little bit brambly or thorny. So interesting, such an interesting composition. And again, she found this at a museum now, particularly right now, right, where we are with pandemic and all that stuff. We've gotten very used to looking at things online. And it's not ideal, is it? But when you're online, you can travel anywhere in the whole world that you want to be. So that is handy. And a lot of museums, because of the pandemic, have put a number of exhibits and permanent exhibits up online so you can see them always. I remember on one of our cocktail nights, or maybe it was one of our classes, I think it was the folk art, it was the designing like a folk art sign painter, like, old sign paintings, tavern signs. In one of the museums, I think it was the Historical Museum in Hartford, Connecticut, the Connecticut Historical Museum, that was it. They had a thing that you could click on in their room of old tavern signs from like the 18th century on. Actually, I think some of them were even from the 17th century. And you could literally turn that arrow around and look and go right close up to the wall and you could read the plaque next to it. Now, nothing beats being there in person. Nothing gets your heart going like being there, hearing other people around you, getting in that shared feeling of being excited and inspired. But it's pretty darn close, isn't it? And having that kind of accessibility. My point is, when Margaret chose this Bluebirds design from the Domestic Design and Architecture Museum, that makes me think how many museums have a lot of content online where you might be able to find something that is absolutely copyright free. You don't even have to ask permission for it, right? If you were going to anyway, if it's going in your living room. You know how I feel about that. But if you're not making, patterns and stuff of it, then... So, it just made me think, your favorite museums over time, think about the places that you've traveled to, even in other countries. See what they have online, because it could be that they have things that are of an age that the artist has been dead for 70 years, right, for the US. And if that's the case, you can use those images, remember your trip, take a trip that you will take in the future but you haven't taken yet, and look for images that might inspire you to do your own designing, right? This is a great source, and it's an infinite source. And if anybody finds a great source after this conversation, Kat's Gallery, great to see you. Oh, you're fine. We're just looking at our first piece. I was running my mouth up until now. Chrissy, Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Yep, you're figuring all that out. I'm happy to hear that the link's in there because I'm really bad at this stuff. Um, what was this? Bluebirds. Now, let's look at the next one I've got here. And the whole point of this evening is to take a real tour. It's like we're going through a gallery together, us guys, right? Us girls, Oh, Dave's not on today. That just made me think of Dave. So this one is called Japanese Wisteria. Now, some of these in Margaret's Etsy shop have sold like this one. You can always ask her if she'll do another because I know she's known to do that. This one, I'm just super inspired by this. What a beautiful composition. This is 30 by 45 inches, and the source is an antique Japanese silk design. So think about it. Books on textiles, books on antique textiles, museums of textile and costume, right? Big museums like the Met, like the one in Pennsylvania, right? That have every category of art. They have textiles too. You can find something like this that's out of copyright that you might want to hook. It's just a great source to go to, finding a Japanese silk design. Think of the eBay searches you could do here, right? Looking at older books. You don't need them in color because you can color plan them yourself. I doubt that this was this color. Margaret is excellent at colors, but you are too. You choose the colors that you like and you're going to love your finished piece. I think this is it's such a lazy piece, right? It's so droopy. It makes me relax just looking at it. It makes me feel like we're sitting at a cafe table and I'm looking over your shoulder while we're talking a little bit. And there's these lazy, droopy flowers coming through the lattice. And what a nice day it is outside. How comfortable and happy we are, right? It's just a cheerful composition. It's got a limited color palette, but it's such a cool color palette. It's so unexpected. The cool tones are really doing battle in the best way with the earth tones because the whole background is very earthy colored, isn't it? But the flowers go to these sort of pistachio and spearmint colors that are quite bright and very cool. And of course, the lilacs go toward the periwinkle and the lilac palette. Very cool against very warm colors. Oh, Kaz, it reminds you of being in Japan. Of course it does. Wait till you see, Kaz, so many of Margaret's inspirations come from Japanese art, architecture, and culture. So you are going to love tonight. It's a lot. It's a lot. This is just the first. That's a beauty, isn't it? Now, this one is called Fleur de Bozart. The source is, this is going to be a hard one to pronounce. Ouellets. It's French speakers. I know you're there. Oeillet. Uh, it's like oil. To me, it's oilets, maybe. Fabric design. So I did not Google oilets, Oeillet, but you might want to later. You might pull up all kinds of great textile designs. But this is a textile design from the School of Beaux-Arts, École des Beaux-Arts, 1906. That's the exact date. So again, sometimes she does things that are like a scene, and she's very drawn to pattern design, so pulling from textiles. And this is another one of those. I just think that this is extraordinary color-wise, very sophisticated palette, right? The sort of Bordeaux color, the wine colors, the sage colors, right? And then the nice light Nouveau style flowers, right? Little bud type flowers coming out like a fan, very well articulated petals. Beautiful, striking piece, isn't it? Very William Morris, absolutely, Karen. It's that time frame, isn't it? It's very William Morris. I'm never brave enough to do something like this that's just a pattern design. Oh my God, I just had an idea. So we're going to see more of this tonight. You know what that reminded me of? Stair risers, right? Like not the treads, which you could do, but the stair risers. Imagine if you picked however many stairs you've got, 11, 13, whatever. Imagine if you picked like your 12 favorite textiles. You did a survey of all these textile museums. You found all these textiles. William Morris, Strawberry Thief on one step, and then you've got like Esprit shirt from the 1980s on another step, and you've got all these different steps leading up that all have different patterns. Wouldn't that make an amazing? If you have the kind of stairs that you look and you look up and you can see the whole thing. See, my stairs turn twice, so I don't have a great stretch. I have maybe 6. It's not a split, but it isn't a big stretch because of the way the little landings are. But if I had a nice set of stairs, I would be starting this tonight after the show. That would be a great idea because using patterns is so hard because there isn't a focal point. So it depends on what kind of design you like and what you like to look at. I am very story driven myself, so I'm looking for a story all the time. Droopy lilacs in a lattice frame and you and me having drinks out in the summer on a patio. I'm always looking for a story, and when there isn't a story, I get, I guess, not distracted. I move on quick. But when there's a collection of stories, a collection of patterns, that's its own story, isn't it? Because then it becomes a collection. And then when it's a collection, you're like, well, here's my William Morris step. You know, it could be such a great project, couldn't it? It would be so cool. And they'd each be such small little projects. It'd be very satisfying to work on one and move on. It would also be a great project for example, if you were experimenting with color and you were struggling with like, oh, I've been dying to use the fuchsia with the bright orange. I want to K facet it right. This would be a great project to do that with because you just do that little bit on that one step and imagine how pretty they would. And then you would have the pleasure of being able to place them right in the right order, which would be very fun. That would be like feather in your cap at the end of a big project like that because we could work on it over a year or two, right? That wouldn't be. People are making these pennies, right? This penny challenge, the penny rug challenge, like they're doing like 10 pennies a day. Surely in like a month we could do a little riser, right? That's not. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should do this. Uh-oh. See, this always happens on cocktail night, doesn't it? Do a step for each member of the family. That would be beautiful, Cindy. That would be so beautiful. You know, it does, Karen. There's two, well, there's a triangle one, and then there's a flat square one. They do, you know, I don't put anything nice down now. I have some braided rugs on in those places now. I don't put anything nice down because my kids are at an age, and the dog, where they're like pig people. And I mean, it's like a pig dog. And the kids just, you know, whether Joss goes outside in the yard with her socks on, like in the mud, and then walks upstairs to the hamper to take the socks off. So one of these days, when life is a little more civilized, I'm definitely going to bling out the surfaces. But for now, I only dare to do the riser part so that nobody's dirty pig feet can touch them. Their little hooves going up the stairs. Oh, I love that idea. I think we're onto something. We should evolve that a little bit more and talk about that a little bit more. Could be kind of a group project too. I mean, we could share treads. And wouldn't that, I'm going to stop, I swear. Wouldn't that be so nice if we did it kind of as a group project and I could put out a couple of like for free patterns a month or maybe one a month realistically. And then some of us could say, I like that, or I don't like that. And I could do it for like 2 years. And at the end of 2 years, we would maybe, many of us that liked doing this and wanted to do this project, many of us would have similar stairs in our house. And that would be something that we shared from a distance, and it would be so nice because it's like something weird that connects us, right? If we had, well, I have that one but not that one, and be all different collections. Wouldn't that be fun? I would love pig feet. I would love knowing that. Oink oink. Oh, they are so bad. They are such good kids, but they are such little piggies. All right, let's see. Let me come back down here. Fleur de Bozart. Now this one is beautiful. Stream and flowers. Isn't that different? Stream and flowers. This is based on a kimono fragment from the 1700s, right? The 18th century. This is a kimono fragment that she found, Margaret, at the Harvard Art Museum. This piece is 18.5 by 28.5. So the Harvard Art Museum. So you see, no matter where you are or where you look online, you're going to find great sources of inspiration. Gail, good to see you. Good morning in Australia. Happy coffee time to you. Good to see you. So, you know, Kaz, I know you love this one too. This has such a feeling to it. This has a story to it. You know, Margaret seems to like the designs that have some stacking facet to it. Because think about the bluebirds. Remember how those two bluebirds were kind of vertically stacked on top of each other? It's a very similar idea to this, with the two primary flowers being stacked right on top of each other in a similar way. This is just a great composition. The colors are so unexpected. These could be the actual kimono colors for sure, but I'm looking at the color of leaves that Margaret has done, and again, it's that sort of pistachio and the spearmint color. It's like her signature go-to color. She likes the cool leaves. And I get that because I'm very drawn to that too. The cool background, the cool leaves, and those warm colored flowers. You see what alchemy is going on here. It's just beautiful. She's got dark, light, dull, bright, right? She's got light color in the flowers. She's got bright color in the leaves. She's got a dark in the background. And the dull really is the blue sort of cornflower background. It's a little bit duller than cornflower. Really beautiful. And then the swirling motion in the back that is evoking either wind or water, right? One way or the other, it is just gorgeous. It creates a lot of energy. There's so much contrast between this diagonal pull of the swirls, right? Almost paisley type swirls with this very vertical, very stable composition of flowers. Real kimono. Oh, Kaz, it is, isn't it? It could be real kimono colors. When I picture kimonos, and I hardly ever see them because they're so desirable now, right? Ever since that show, what was that British show where the girl bought the castle with her husband in France, right, or a chateau, and she opened it up to the public? You know what I'm talking about? She was like, I think, is single-handedly responsible for there being no more kimonos like available at all on the internet, because she wore a different kimono in every shirt, and it got people really going on that look, I think. Help me remember the name of that show. It was so good. But this is just a beautiful composition, stream and flowers, from a 1700s kimono. This is beautiful too. This is going absolutely in the other direction, right? This is very William Morris again, very arts and crafts. The source for this is actually a carpet. This is a carpet designed by Max Lauger in Germany. That's Lauger, German, 1900. The year is 1900. I love it too, Gail. That was so pretty. I love this one too, 45.5 by 30. So this is called Arts and Crafts Roses. And this is a really interesting composition because I love the stop and start quality of it. This is very Mackintosh style, right? Charles Mackintosh style, the Scottish artist and architect. I love the central field of green. It really grounds me. It's almost like a little plot, like a little city garden plot. And then around all these different compartments of cool colors that box up the whole composition, different sizes, staggered in different ways, some overlapping. But there is something, there's a stop and start quality to it, which really keeps your eye engaged. I love this very similar placement of similar colored roses, very neat and tidy in the compartments, almost like you're putting together a cabinet of curiosities and you have perfectly placed each little thing in each little drawer. Teresa says carpets in hotel bathrooms can be very interesting. I am so glad that you said that, Teresa. I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. And I feel the same way, and I said this either last week or the week before about movie theater carpets, because even though they're loud and tacky, when you look at them, there's often something amazingly great going on. Usually not the color combo, but design-wise, these commercial carpets, right, for places like hotels and movie theaters, restaurants, they're often awful at first glance, but spectacular when you break them apart. And something like that could give you a wonderful inspiration for your own rug design. You just take out your phone, take a picture, and you figure it out at home, right? I mean, how great is that? Especially if you have a nice meal or if you have a nice weekend away at a hotel and you think, gosh, I'd love a souvenir of this place that we've been. And, you know, how many t-shirts does one need, right? There maybe isn't an obvious souvenir. Well, look around at the textiles and look around at the things that you see, because maybe you want to do a copy or an excerpt from a piece of wallpaper or a rug. And wouldn't that be the best souvenir of all, really? If you come home with your phone or your camera filled with images of things that you took picture of, different wallpapers, different carpets, what a great, because then you take with you home the promise and the pleasure of working on something later, which is the best kind of souvenir. It's a to be continued souvenir. I just love this piece. I just love it. We're going to have to do a William Morris episode at some point, and also a Mackintosh episode at some point, because these styles are so distinct, and we really need to tap into them. A lot of this work is not copyright free. Some of it is, but obviously not all of it. So, you know, I have to be careful with that, but looking at it is fine. I've skipped a lot of things that would be real helpful for us to talk about in the design light classes just because it's too challenging. But this is a to be continued, right? The arts and crafts roses. You can certainly take with you this idea of compartmentalizing, breaking this down into small pieces like this, and then dropping in a similar design motif, right? Because this that idea. Escape to the Chateau. Thank you, Linda. That was a great show. I don't know if it's still on. I haven't watched it in a while. She's fun. She is fun in her crazy kimono. She's a character and a half. Hammersmith. Now, this is another one that is very arts and crafts. Well, here we go. Source is William Morris, right? This is his design, Hammersmith design, right? And I know one of the big rug hooking studios, if you know who it is, shout it out. I know somebody is doing a lot with William Morris design. And William Morris is copyright free. So if you like William Morris, you don't, and you want to design it yourself straight from a postcard or a page in a book, you can do that. But I know somebody is putting out William Morris designs. And again, it's open to everybody because it is copyright free. This is Hammersmith. The piece is called Hammersmith. And again, beautiful use. Now she is using a much warmer color for her leaves here. Not going toward a warmer green, but going more toward a rusty brown, right? It's almost like moving away from bronze and into rust, right? Such a beautiful warm color. William Morris did a lot with warm colors, right? He often had compositions that were all warm colors, no sort of dipping into the cool, warm color wheel trick. But this has a little bit of cool, a little bit of light blue in the border. You can see mixing in with that paprika. It looks to me like the ground in the central panel is more like a dark teal than a black or navy. Does it look like that to you too? One of the things about this piece that I think is extraordinary is the amount of filigree hooking in the center, right? All of those little wisps of line. It really creates so much interest. It's such a stable composition, right? It's a very basic composition, but all of that work, all of those little wisps, what a lot of fun that must have been to hook, right? Because it's not just like a basic ground. It's got a lot going on. Very controlled color palette. I love the color of the leaves, almost like the color of beets in the corners. The little petals are like beet colored or radish colored. Very, very nice. Right next to that very cool light blue lotusy border, right? Really, really striking. And again, this one is called Hammersmith, and this is based on a William Morris design. Here comes Chinese Birds. Chinese Birds is 25 by 28, and the source, it's a crop of an antique Chinese rug. So she saw a source at some point that she loved, a Chinese rug, and she decided to do one part of it, one scene of it. It probably was a much more involved and busy composition, but this is the part that she focused on and that she liked. 25 by 28 is a good size for one motif like this. It almost looks like a lot of the Pearl McGown and Persian type designs that we've looked at lately, but definitely it's going more toward Asian Chinese design, right? It is just beautiful. There is something magical to me about having that tree that looks like it's going, I can't tell if that's the ground, right? It looks a little bit like water, but that's probably the ground. It's got the stripes, which make me think, could it be water and a little tree coming out on an island? It's hard to say, and it doesn't matter. I love the blocky boulder on the bottom left, right? That the stork type character. What is that bird with the red head, right? That must be a real specific bird. I love the spray of bay. You're in love, Gail. I love the spray of berries coming over from the left, right? That nice orange. That's the opposite on the color wheel to the blue. So those two are complementing each other. How do you do? Very well. You look lovely today. Well, so do you. Complementing each other like crazy over there on the top left. But what I really love about this composition, two things. I love that one giant flower in the middle of the tree. Completely impossible, unlikely, unrealistic, magic. I just love it. It's the story of the tree and the way that those little dark leaves are kind of wreathing out of it, like a little wreath coming out of it. So charming. I love the silhouette of the black flower leafy stems coming up on the right, right? And it looks almost like there's a shadow of them, but I think it's just where the rock is breaking. But I love that dark silhouette that kind of disappears behind the duck. So pretty. It looks like a sandhill crane. Oh, Teresa, that sounds right. That sounds good, doesn't it? I bet you're right. That sounds really smart. Gosh, I haven't heard that word sandhill in so long. I'm having trouble picturing it, but I'm sure you know more than I. It's a beautiful looking bird. The way that its wing is set into that white body is so charming. All of the birds, all four of them in this composition, are just so sweet. All the different poses. It's so smart, isn't it? And I love this palette of the the cool blue and then the richer blue, right? The blue at the bottom is a much warmer blue. The one at the top is moving more toward a gray blue, and really with the oranges and the yellows really complementing. And then the brown has a lot of red in it in the leaves. So that's all working against each other. But again, that's what you want. You want that kind of tension to create interest. It's really, it sparks. The whole thing just sparks. Super, super interesting composition. Chinese birds. Here comes Japanese morning glories. And this is another pattern-driven design, right? This is this kind of thing I would be thinking about with the stair risers. Japanese morning glories. This is 15.5 by 32.5, and the source is, now this is one of the rabbit holes I went down a little bit. The source is, hold on a second, I'm just checking my notes. An artist called Kitsu Suzuki. Years of life, 1796 to 1858. So 18th into 19th century artist. Kitsu Suzuki was a Japanese painter of the Rinpa school, a student of the most famous painter, Sekai, I'm sorry, Kaz, I know I'm killing these names, Hoitsu. He was for a long time considered a minor member of the Rinpa school of Japanese painting. In recent years, his work has been reevaluated and has gained recognition, leading to a series of major exhibitions of his art in 2017 and 2018 in Tokyo, Hyogo, and Kyoto. Kitsu is best known for his bayubu, which I guess are folding screens, often a reinterpretation of screens by other Rinpa artists, such as his massive wind god and thunder god. I'm going to show you these images. So I cut out a little bit of a biography on him, and reading a little bit about him made me want to look up what some of his other work looked like. So I want to just one more time say this is an extraordinarily beautiful piece, Japanese Morning Glories, hooked by Margaret, right? But I want to look at the inspiration, the artist who inspired her to do this piece. Let's look at some of his famous screens. Now, I think we have all seen this image, right? This is actually, this is at the Metropolitan Museum in New York, so the Met. This is also on the back of, I would say, 50% of the playing cards in the world, right? Do you have playing cards with this exact picture on them? Because I think I always have. Famous, very famous Boyobu. I'm saying things terribly. I'm sorry. Good Kaz. Kaz can give some insight because she's got so much knowledge. And this is a lot of Asian art we're looking at tonight. But when I saw this, I thought, man, I feel like playing gin rummy. It's just on every pack of cards we own, I think. Beautiful, very iconic screen for sure, right? And then this piece, this is another screen. This is owned, or at least it's at the Nezo, N-E-Z-O Museum in Tokyo. So just another beautiful screen. This is one of two. This is the one I put the image in for tonight. This is called Mountain Stream in Autumn. And there's also Mountain Stream in Winter, right? So it's in different seasons. This artist does a lot with the same scene, different seasons. But this is autumn, and I thought it was just beautiful the way that the water was running right down from the sides, down into the center bottom of the frame. Another really stunning screen. And this is Thunder God that I just referred to. So again, another screen panel, but this one is called Thunder God. There's also, I think it was Wind God, but I liked Thunder God. He looked almost like this, the cover of a science fiction paperback, right? So neat. So neat. So I went down that rabbit hole a little bit because, you know, it's so fun when you, I'm going to cut out of there for a second. You know, when you see something, like words that I have not heard before, because I am not familiar with Asian art at all. When I see a name that I haven't heard before, I mean, I can't resist, no matter what my timing situation is, I can't resist but look it up and see if anything rings a bell. And for me, that image on the back of my playing cards rang a bell, and I'd seen some of those images before, and I thought, this is so cool. This is why it's so much fun to look at stuff together, because we can brainstorm in the margin. But it's always worth taking the time when you see something that you haven't seen before that sparks your imagination and your interest, might as well look it up, right? We are so privileged at this point in time to have a tool like the internet literally at our fingertips. We are so lucky to be able to look at things and look things up in ways that even like not even one generation ago, when I was in college and the internet first came out, right? I was in theater school in London at the time, And somebody said to me, I probably told you the story. You can look up things about costume, because I was studying costume design and construction on the internet. And I was like, what is the internet? And they brought me over, the librarian, showed us all how to use the thing. And I thought, I was furiously writing down every page, every word on every page, because I just felt like the page might go away. Like I didn't understand how it worked at all. I mean, it can still happen that way. But I was furiously writing. Every time there was nobody, there was like one computer on it, I was writing down every word because I was so scared that information was like ephemera. Like it would just suddenly be gone the next morning. And I'd go, God, I was going to do like a Elizabethan farthingale, and I only had that last paragraph. It's not like that anymore. We can look up whatever we want at our leisure, bookmark things, come back to it when we feel like it again, right? It's so nice to go down rabbit holes. This is a beautiful piece by Margaret. This piece is called, I think this is Damascus Tile. Let me just be sure. Yes. Oh, by the way, that Thunder God we just looked at is at the Tokyo Fuji Art Museum. Just so you know, Tokyo Fuji Art Museum. This piece is called Damascus Tile, and it is based on a Damascus tile, right? So Damascus tiles, right? So Damascus, Syria, we're talking. Tiles of this period are hundreds of years old, and these patterns are certainly copyright free. So going on a internet rabbit hole where you could do, sorry, I'm distracted because Aileen just said you could mount rugs on folding screens. Wow, you could have carpets on both sides. See, this is what gets me going on Friday nights, isn't it? I'm drinking cough medicine, wine, and then these kinds of comments keep me up at night, Aileen, in the best way. That is a great idea, because how often do you see, hopefully somewhat often, a ratty frame, at an antique store or at a thrift store? And if you don't see a ratty frame in one of those places, you can make something with a hammer and nails that you could hang your rugs off of, a screen divider, right? That would be so nice. I thought of something the other day too, because we were talking about this last Friday night. I thought of something else, and I thought, oh, it'll come to me. It'll come to me probably sooner rather than later. Oh, hey, Lily, good to see you. Me too. Although I know when I see it, I'm going to hate it. That's just like the curse of everything that I've ever had that's been in print or in a magazine or whatever. I don't even want to see it because I know I'm going to be like, but I am looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing all your stuff. Damascus tile. Okay, so when you go on a little treasure hunt down the rabbit hole for Damascus tile, you will be amazed at what you find. These are such beautiful. The door idea was great, Aileen. Such a good idea. That was our last Friday night idea. And when you're looking at this kind of design, you don't have to do it in the color palette that the tile is. But I'll tell you, these tiles, there are infinite number of them represented online, different museums holding them, right? Because they're important and they're very, very old. But the color palettes are quite unexpectedly bright and beautiful. Of course, you do whatever colors that you want. The thing is the lines, isn't it? But so pretty. So you know that I had to go on a bit of a Damascus tile treasure hunt, and I found this one. Let me move it down a little bit. Oops, wait a minute, don't do that. Don't want to play that game. I'm going to leave it. How about I leave it? This one is at Brown University, so in Providence, Rhode Island. This is just a Damascus tile in their collection. You can see they have it framed really nice. Just beautiful colors. This is the kind of designing that you do when you take a piece of paper and fold it into quarters, right? When you're doing like the German paper cutting, you fold it into half. When you're doing this kind of design, you fold it into quarters. When you do things like snowflakes, you fold it again into the pie shape, right? There's only so many ways you can fold paper to get a symmetrical design, but this is quarters. This is nice and easy, and you could really fool around with paper cutting to make designs in this style. And how beautiful would these be to hook? These would be absolutely beautiful. Aileen says, Karen, great idea. Oh, Karen says, painted china pieces would be a great inspiration. Absolutely. Well, think about if you, and I can't believe I'm still saying this, but we have to do an episode on Cave Fassett. I hope I wouldn't get in trouble, though, because he's got such a big presence. I don't know how much of his stuff I could cover. He has put out so many beautiful books, and he's a household name. But think about if you have any of his needlepoint books, even his quilt books, he does so much with representing China and broken China and mosaic and things like that. He does so much designing along those lines, and he makes such a huge success out of pottery. Also, our buddy Pearl McGown did so much with jars and jugs and vases. The two of the patterns that I put out to the Patreon group that I haven't brought yet to, I'm going to send those invoices out tonight. I swear, I just have to get this stuff ready for this weekend, and then I'll do it. It'll be tonight. I haven't sent the ones that are available because there's still tons available out to the main group, but two of the ones that are in that collection of vintage patterns that are super rare, super rare, are two Pearl McGown patterns on burlap, so you might want to transfer them. They're small, but they're two of her vases. One of them I think is tall vase and the other is chubby vase. They are very exotic vases, and they are uber rare patterns. Like I've never seen them before. No matter how hard I look, I cannot find any other representation of them. They're things I do not have time to hook right now. But if vases or whatever appeal to you, be looking for those because I'll post those soon for everybody to grab. And those are two of the rarest ones that were in that group. Damascus tiles. So let's see. This one was from Brown University. And let's look at another one. Let's just be crazy and look at one more. This is another Damascus tile. And you can see blue, it's almost like the Delft colors, right? Blue is very heavy as a color palette. It's everything is kind of based in blue, but it certainly doesn't have to be. This one is from the Maas, M-A-A-S Museum in Damascus, Syria, right? So this is actually where it came from. But again, if you go on a treasure hunt like I did and you look up Damascus tile, you will be blown away by the amount of content that is there. And these patterns are up for grabs. So have a party with those, right? This is beautiful. This is Margaret's piece called Fleur de Bozart 2, right? So 2, like Roman numeral 2, this is the second in a series of the second one that she did. It's similar to the other one that we looked at that was in the kind of wine colors, remember? With the sage leaves and then the white heads on the flowers. I have the orientation of this one turned sideways so we could see it a little bit bigger, but it's basically the same design. This is how we got talking about stair risers, was this design but in a different color palette, 20 by 39, so this one's bigger. This is the source is French Art Nouveau 1906. So she must have been looking at I'm not sure exactly if it's a textile or what sparked this, but it's something that dates to 1906. Just another beautiful design. We've again seen this one earlier on, but I love this color palette. It's so Margaret. It's so different, isn't it? She loves the kind of dull colors the way that I do. Not necessarily dull, but the in-between colors like this cornflower blue and this orangey saffron background. And then the flowers are kind of an off raspberry, more like an old rose raspberry, like if you know the Dharma colors, maybe like an antique mauve, right? Very, very unusual palette. I love the outlining. That keeps it looking very Art Nouveau. Just another beauty, another absolute beauty. Pomegranate Tree, the Pomegranate Tree and the Sea. Who is going to be the person who writes a book or at least a short story called The Pomegranate Tree and the Sea? I think that is such a beautiful line. This is 28 by 48. And for this, she used two sources, and they were both Chinese rugs. So she made a kind of composite. I don't know what the sources are, but I'm guessing maybe the central motif and the border come from two different rugs. But I absolutely love the geometry in here. It is not perfectly symmetrical. If you look at the bottom, there's a vase at the bottom, right? So it almost is like a prayer rug in that it is one-sided, right? It's very subtle. But this border is like a chevron design and so unexpected, right? It's just completely, and it fits so well color-wise with the background, this kind of maze-like leaf configuration of the stems and the leaves and the vines and the flowers, right? All the flower elements. These big spotty flowers, this really geometric, again, maze-like geometry in the background, and then this wild, oversized chevron border. So smart. It's so smart. It's so fetching, isn't it? I just absolutely love this piece. Again, this piece is called The Pomegranate Tree and the Sea. How great is that? Doesn't that put you in such a mood? Are you all taking a sip of your drink right now? I got to take a sip of my drink. Let me take a quick little sip. Got to wash down that cough medicine. This one is called Poppies. Poppies is 30 by 30. This is again an Art Nouveau textile. It's from France. At least that's the source. So that's what we know, that it's a French textile from the year 1896. Absolutely beautiful. There is everything Art Nouveau about the way that this looks, right? But what's so interesting to me about the way, I don't know if this is a crop or if she was kind of fooling with the composition of it, but I love the way the flowers line up in two imperfect horizontals. Because usually in Art Nouveau, all we see is patterning, and that is fine. But with this picture, this appeals to me more as a story because of the way that it's lined up, right? It's not a pattern. I can't see this repeating as wallpaper, not the way that it is, right? Unless the top of it is just all green, or if it's going to come in irregular rows. I just love this composition. It is so smart. We've got these high-reaching vertical leaves, green leaves, and then to counterbalance that vertical pull, she's got these very strong horizontals with these poppies in two colors, and they are just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. This next one is another one. This is going to blow you away. All of Margaret's work blows you away, right? And it's worth repeating. You love that one, Sandra, do you, the poppies? You know, this is for sale. 99% of these are for sale. I nabbed a few that had been sold, but they're for sale. They're on Etsy. You can find them if you love them. They are priced very well, very well. All, you know, different sizes, different prices, but this is an investment when you buy something like this, because Margaret Arage is a proper artist, right? She is not fooling around. This is what she does. She is like a curator, and I hate that word. I have to say that word is so overused right now, but I'm using it now because it fits. It absolutely fits. She's like a curator of world art. She picks the most exquisite things. She tweaks them to make them even better, and then they're available to buy at a price that is absolutely fair and reasonable. So she is, and I shouldn't say this because I want all of these pieces, and whenever I say anything, I go to buy something and it's sold. But I want to share this information with you because she is great, and she is collectible. And she, even if you buy the piece that I want to buy next month when I'm a bit more stable with money, or the month after, who knows, even if you get that one, I know that Margaret is going to have more good ideas later, and I'll be able to get one later. So there's tons up there for you to look at. And if you're collecting, I highly recommend that you collect her. She is super vibrant and important in our world of rug cooking. This piece is called Oaks, 24 by 30. Absolutely beautiful. The source is a Yoshito Yamamoto's Oak Glen with permission. So this was under copyright, and she got permission from the artist to hook this. This is just, Kaz, what do you think of this piece? This is just, this is such a great story to me. I know the setting is completely different, but this reminds me, I think it was Longfellow, although it might have been Hawthorne, who said something like, when talking about New England and talking about the ancient, you know, all these mature trees that we have over the road that make a canopy or an arc like this one is, one of those great American poets said something like, as soon as you tell someone about the shade of one of these ancient trees, it's almost like you've said too much because it's so descriptive, right? Ancient tree arcing over the road, creating so much spotty, romantic shade underneath. It's almost like you've said too much. It's a whole story already. What a beautiful idea. What a beautiful statement. I wish I could find the source of that. That was from my tour guide days that I read that, and I remembered it, and I still remember it. I just can't remember who said it. Kaz loves it. It is just beautiful. It is such a beautiful composition. It is so sort of sensual, this beautiful curve, all of this patchiness, these same shade, right? Different, same color, different intensities of the color, different shades of the color, right? It's the same green that goes dark to light. It certainly looks like it is. Might be a hair different, but it's pretty much the same color. Different values of creating sameness and variety against that light blue sky, and that in the distance a hazy kind of purple mountains or rocks and the water in the distance. I mean, it's just probably rocks, right? It's just beautiful. Look at the ground, how it's broken up like stained glass, right? So much outlining. Margaret does so much with fine outlining in black. Remember, she's hooking with yarn, not strips. She does so much fine outlining, and it really helps. It's not super in-your-face, bold, graphic, Lichtenstein type outline, is it? It's just there. It holds the pieces where they're supposed to go. It's fragile. It's like dainty outlining around a really beautiful graphic, and it has the look of a wood cut to me. It has the lines of a woodcut. I think this piece is so beautiful. Look at the little bit of yellow mixed in with the green on the ground. I mean, this is so good, isn't it? It is stunning. It is stunning, Gail. It's gorgeous. So, I mean, if you like any of these, you like all of them, don't you? Because the thing is, Margaret's taste is super broad, but it's good. Like every image that she chooses is very good. So there is that common denominator. If you like this one, you like the one before, and you're going to like the one after, because if you like these, you have the same taste as Margaret, the same taste as me. I think the same taste as most of us. These are just glorious moments in art history that she is celebrating with these hooked pieces. This one is called Ginkgo, 20 by 25, and the source is an antique Japanese design. So a very simple design. It almost plays like, it looks like a textile design, but it almost plays like a landscape, doesn't it? Because the ginkgo is so oversized and such a huge focus that it almost reads as trees. I like the color change halfway up the stems, going from black to green. Super interest. I like the way it's clustered diagonally on the top right and the bottom left, right? It makes almost like a canopy. And then in the middle, those beautiful silhouettes. Almost feels like a 1920s storybook cottage setting, doesn't it? Almost feels like you could see Thumbelina make an appearance from stage right in between those little stems. And that would also be super beautiful, but just a gorgeous, very simple piece. Again, I can't help but think, I feel like I've seen this on a card or on a book plate or something. It is so, so striking, so simple, so striking. This piece is called Water Irises 2. And the source for this, I have it sideways, right? So it would be tipped northwest, right? I just wanted you to see it larger, so I set it up this way. Water Irises 2. The source for this is vintage wallpaper. And again, and you can see how this is a design that repeats, right? You can see how where it cuts off, you'd be able to match it, and it would be just a beautiful all over. I would go for this. I would go for this for sure. I like the small sprays of the very well-defined pink flowers, slightly different colors, but beautiful sprays, almost like a ribbon of blue around them at the base of them. And then this really, really bright cobalt purpley, right? Intense color for the irises. It's so pretty. The background color, again, that's one of Margaret's favorite colors, isn't it? It's really striking. Warm colors with cool colors. The warm color in this piece that really stands out is that really strong golden mustard in the center of the flowers. And it makes your eye travel around. Your eye wants to see how many instances of it can find. And there's a whole bunch. You travel right along with it and see all of that. And otherwise, it's a very cool, calm composition. You can see perfectly how this would be a beautiful wallpaper, nice old wallpaper to have, right? And it does make you think, gosh, wallpaper is a great source of inspiration, isn't it? I mean, if I could find, and I'm not going to get started, but if I could find that butterfly wallpaper, Mom, that was on my walls when we lived in Barrington, Rhode Island, I would go nuts because I would definitely turn that into a piece. That would be so special. If you have old photographs of places that you've lived or places that you've eaten, dining rooms where you particularly loved the wallpaper, what a great idea, stair treads or whatever, what a great idea to use that pattern design as a rug design. I mean, it really is, isn't it? What a great way to celebrate a place that you've been, that you loved, and that you want to think about more often. I think wallpaper design is so smart. Sue's, great to see you. I'm very pleased that you're there. We're here. We're here. We're happy to have you anytime at all. Reminds me when I went to the gym the other day. You know, I've just started back and I already feel like fantastic. But the gym teacher was so scary. somebody came in a little bit late and she made this comment on the microphone about, oh, I don't know, some people, I mean, I wouldn't dare disturb a class in progress. And I'm thinking, who cares? None of us even realized that somebody came in behind us until you announced it on the microphone. I mean, it was just so like, what is wrong with people, you know? What is wrong with people? Late is great with me. It is great with me. I just saw our little number go up there, so I am happy to have you. I wish we, yeah, well, you know what we have to do, Mom, with stuff like that, we have to get out the old photos. I know you were just playing that game last week for me, and blow them up a ton, right? Because, yeah, I've got to recreate that wallpaper. I wonder if you feel the same way about wallpaper in your life. It would be so nice. Post that stuff in our group. I don't care if people go, what are they talking about? I want to see stuff that we're talking about tonight that inspired you, things that you're pulling from. I want to see all that in the group. I want to know what you're working on as a result of our talks. This is another beauty. This goes with that lattice, what was it called? Japanese trellis, I think it was called. The wisteria. No, Japanese wisteria. This is very different because remember that one was on the diagonal, so it was kind of like tipped. This one is very head on. This is such a beauty. It's called Morning Glory. It's 19-inch square. Now get ready for this because this is going to be foreshadowing to our week next week. This is a 1970s design from Erica Wilson, right? So she was a needlepoint artist. I know you remember Erica Wilson, right? I have all of her books, needlepoint, crewel. She even got into like plastic needlepoint, which I'm not into. At the time I was. But, you know, Erica Wilson is like a Claire Murray, like a household name, right? So she used to have a TV show too. She was British, and it's very unlikely that she would be as popular as she became in the US, but she became very popular. I went down such a rabbit hole with Erica Wilson stuff that we will definitely have an Erica Wilson episode next week. So everything that I have to say about Erica Wilson, I'm going to save because I already started putting together a file with stuff that I want to share with you that is such good inspiration stuff. And if you remember Erica Wilson in the 1970s, 1980s, it'll be a very nostalgic episode for you too, because the crossover between needlepoint or any needle arts and rug hooking or rug making is 100%. 100%. You're going to be so inspired. But let's hold on that one. We'll come back to that next week because I found a couple of rare Erica Wilson books. And I ordered them, and then I ordered this book. Let me show you this one because you might be interested in this too. There's copies. Oh, there's Erica Wilson. I put that one in. I just thought she's so pretty. I just loved her look. I loved her manner. I love her books. She's very accessible. And the thing that I love the most about her, thinking back to her books, because I haven't had time really, me too, Teresa, right? She's just such an icon. She's passed away since. But, you know, one of the things that I like the most about her is her attitude was always, this is not an elite craft. Everybody can do this. It's for everybody. That was always the point that she drove home. And I relate to that and I respect that and I love that she wanted to make that craft because needlepoint, like rug hooking, has a history of being a very elite craft and it become very expensive over time. And she was always very vocal and against that idea. And I just love that part of what she did, that she really brought it to everybody who wanted it. I ordered this book, which is available on Amazon. I ordered it because thank you to Patreon members. Thank you to everybody who supports. I figure if you're sending me money, I want to be sure that I have the things that I feel we need to have great conversations and great inspiration. This book is a little bit expensive, but I found a copy that wasn't too much. I think I paid maybe $20 for it or $25. But we'll look at this together. And when we look at this next week, it should come early in the week. Then you can decide if this is something that you'd be interested in. It's called Erica Wilson, A Life in Stitches. So it seems to me there's not a lot of information about it out there, but it seems to me like it's going to be part sort of biographical and part talking about her designs and her inspiration for designing. And I thought this has the potential to be very good for us in terms of our being inspired. Karen says, I wonder if old-fashioned hardware stores have wallpaper sample books for free. You know, Karen, 10 or even maybe 20 years ago, I would have said absolutely. But now I would say probably not, because ever since eBay, I think people have, depending on where you are, I think most people have realized that those wallpaper magazines are worth hundreds of dollars. Fabric samples and wallpaper magazines, hundreds of dollars. all vintage wallpaper on eBay. It's untouchable. I used to do stained glass, and I used to do some pieces that were meant for the wall, right? Because my sister and I painted on the stained glass and framed it ourselves. We built the frames and everything, and I used to like to use vintage wallpaper for the backs of them. I wonder if I have any in here. Yeah, I have one right here. Let's look at this one. This isn't my favorite one by any means. Funny that we're talking about it, though. Gosh, I have so many of these still. They hardly sold. Nobody liked them, but we liked them. We built the frames from scratch, right? So there's just regular wood that we painted and stuff, and then I would put an inner frame over here that's overlapped, and I think I painted the deer on this one and the bird. But then my sister's very good at painting. You know, she works at Yale now. I always brag. She paints she's very good at painting jewelry and chain and stuff. So we usually use slag glass, which was really solid glass. So it wouldn't be like everybody would say like you're supposed to put it in the window. We were just using scraps of glass that were already quite small to make compositions, and we put them together. I used to use you see how with the soldering it's all shapy? I would get the thick soldering from the hardware store, and I'd cut it with kids. I didn't have kids then, of course. This was like 20 years before. I would cut it with the kids' scissors that have like a corrugated edge, but like in 100 different shapes. You know what I mean? I'd cut the tape, the copper tape that wraps around the piece, and then when I hit it with the soldering iron, it solders that crazy scallop shape. I had so many of those pairs of scissors, but that was super fun. That was something that we used to do together. We love to do projects together when we can. She's over in Germany now at her husband's parents' house, so I'm saying a little prayer that she's traveling safe and everything's good. You know, she's in a fine area, but I just don't like airplanes or travel at all anymore. So my mom says we used to get those wallpaper books for free. Yep, absolutely. It is. Well, people, you know, everybody's got to do what they do, but I think one of the bad things about the internet is that we understand now what is scarce and what is not, what is valuable and what is not, and you don't get too many bargains anymore because of that, right? So that's maybe one of the downfall things about this great www. But at the end of the day, I think that's a small downside. And there are still places for sure where you, I'm sure, could find a wallpaper book or something like that. It's always worth asking. The little neighborhood stores, right? It's always worth asking. You just never know. It's well worth a try, never win, right? Depression era slogan. Never try, never win. Oh, Sue says, I so appreciate folks who are inclusive. Me too. Me too. Because there's too many people that want to sell you the most expensive of everything, and then when you don't feel like you want to, or you're in a position to buy it, you feel very left out. And if you do buy it, you feel very cheated and unhappy, you know, and it's just that kind of a world. We don't live in that world. We know better. But Erica didn't live in that world either. Thanks, April. We did a lot of fun stuff, and we still do. If you're friends with me on Facebook, my favorite thing that we've done in the last 10 years are those macaroni angels this Christmas. Me and Joss and my sister did macaroni angels and spray painted them gold. They were unbelievable. I've got them wrapped up like they're like little, you know, Tiffany jewels for the wire tree next Christmas. They're so, and I'm going to do some rug hooking of the pasta angels. You'll see. You'll see. It'll be crazy enough. You'll know just what I'm talking about when you see it. All right, let's do a few more of these guys. If I'm crazy, you know I was drinking the, not the Kool-Aid, but the cough medicine. Let's see. Let me come down here. We have so many of these. We've got many episodes of this, talking of these rabbit holes. Here we go. So we were looking at this book. Oh, and you know what I wanted to show you? Just a hint at the Erica Wilson world, right? So I wanted to show you this beautiful canvas of hers. This is the painted canvas ready for needlepoint, right? So this is the canvas that is available for sale, and this is the piece made, right? But also, Erica Wilson, like Margaret, like me, like every artist who makes stuff, gets their inspiration from somewhere. And you know where Erica got hers? This has got to be the most famous postcard of all time on Cape Cod, right? When I go to Cape Cod, I cannot avoid seeing this postcard, vintage. I should just pick one up, right? Everywhere, absolutely everywhere. So you can see this is obviously what inspired her to do this design. So inspired by a postcard. We know that story too, right? Because a lot of people do rug hooking based on old postcards, but super, super, super pretty, right? Inspiration comes from so many places. Art Nouveau Landscape 2. This is one of Margaret's pieces, Art Nouveau Landscape 2. So here's another rabbit hole. The source is a Paul Burke, and that's Burck, tapestry from 1899. Now, if you don't know Paul Burke, he is so good. We're going to look at some of his work together just a little bit because this was another crazy rabbit hole. But first I want to just admire this piece that Margaret did because it is insane. 19 by 27. This is just so simple, so lovely. Look at the way the top of the frame is shaped a little bit. Isn't that inviting? Look at the branches come down quite far into the composition, like halfway in before the composition meets anything else, like the horizon line, the peaks, the river that's taking our eye off into the distance, wandering away, and then in the foreground, this lovely patterning of flowers, ground covering, right? Absolutely beautiful. So Margaret did a stellar job with this, again, balancing the cool blue with all of these warm colors. See how, when we talk about, and we talked mostly about color last Friday night with our 80s night, so I won't talk too much about color tonight, but when you think about the color wheel and the way that it works, and we will continue to work together to demystify the color wheel, there is a lot to be said for mixing warm colors with cool colors. And I don't just mean willy-nilly, right? She's only got one cool color in this composition. White isn't really a color. It's the absence of color, right? But everything else is quite warm. And she's got some neutrals, right? The browns and grays are considered neutrals. But really, when you're doing a color composition and you're planning, it is tempting to make everything very matchy-matchy. But it is interesting to pull toward ideas like dark light, dull bright, and using the color wheel, the way that we've been talking about it, using colors that are right next to each other on the color wheel, or maybe one or two colors that are on the opposite side that are in the other family, warm versus cool, right? Because it does pop. It's just tricks that people have learned over the years to make things pop, and we might as well in our work capitalize on those findings, right? Because they're brilliant. So if you don't know Paul Burke, he is a very important artist. Again, the piece we just saw was 1899. I've got my terrible glasses on tonight. I found this great blog spot called Blogspot Wakjes, and that's spelled Wakges. And the date for the blog is Tuesday, August 14, 2010. And the name of the blog, right, because this is well worth pulling up later, is Tapestry Work of Paul Burke. And I just took a little excerpt out for us tonight, and it says, the tapestry work produced by the German artist and designer Paul Burke during the last years of the 19th century are probably some of the most interesting examples of the new European art of that era. Tapestry had seen a strengthening and widening of both its appeal and focus during the later half of the 19th century, particularly under the leadership of the English arts and crafts movement. However, by the very end of the century, much of that leadership had been lost, as also had the direction of the craft, with tapestries becoming increasingly dependent on the imagery of past glories, particularly those of 16th century and 17th century designs. Now, you can read that whole article, but basically what the author is saying, again, this blog spot is called Wakjes, Wakges. He's saying that when the principles of the arts and crafts movement died, disappeared, faded out, right? People started copying work, right, for a lack of original ideas and inspiration and leadership. But Paul Burke is really the answer to that, because this style of work, you can see, stands alone. It is not dependent on other schools. Everything about this composition is exciting, right? And he's got the warms and the cools going on too. Very similar to Margaret's colors, that stony gray, blue cloud, right? Almost crossing over to green up on top. That rust, that bronzy rust sky. Very limited color palette in the greens. He's got warm greens, right? Margaret likes her cooler greens, but these are warm greens. And then at the border, right? This could easily be just a border of daisies dancing, but they go in a kind of configuration like a lazy Z, right? They move in and out. Why? Design, just for fun, right? It doesn't necessarily for me make a stronger composition, but it does create interest. It does have me looking at those daisies. It looks like a crop of something larger, and it makes me want to just look another second. Sue says the trees appear to be can dancers. Holy mackerel, you are so right. That frisky little leg looks like it wants to kick right up, doesn't it? That is so funny. Wouldn't it be funny? Oh, you are so good, Suze. Wouldn't it be great to do a composition like this and turn the trees into like characters and give them that sort of Moulin Rouge background? Wouldn't that be funny? They look like can dancers. Absolutely, with all their feathered, ruffled boa stuff, huh? And Karen says her shapes are amazing, almost coloring book style. Yep. No, so good, so good. So this is actually Paul Burke, this one. And here's another Paul Burke, just so we know and we can say, I know what Paul Burke looks like. He's a German artist, right? At the beginning of the 20th century, he really he helped to move along the fate of the tapestry away from earlier past masters and into the modern era. Absolutely. Unusual design elements like this, the tree, almost like a dandelion, 90% gone, right? Unusual subject, but also the composition itself, right? That tree is going right through the center of a tree behind it, which is pretty prominent because it's really a contrasting color to everything else in the piece. So interesting, just really blatant breaking of the rules, but this becomes the next era of rules, right? So it's not really the breaking of the rules, it's the evolution of the rules, it's the extension of the rules. We will see things like this coming up, but interesting, isn't it? And I think I have one more Burke for you, just so we know. Oh, this is a beautiful one. This I think is a woodcut. I'm going to assume it's a woodcut. It says Herbst in the bottom of it, which in Dutch means autumn, and I'm assuming in German it means autumn too. But just a beautiful. This composition was in black and white. I didn't see it in color at all. You can imagine the color for sure. But beautiful, simple compositions, right? So just looking at the work that Margaret's done really is bringing us to a lot of places in one evening, isn't it? It's bringing us right to the doorstep of many different artists and periods of art, which we can investigate more in the future if we want to. And we want to, right? You know where else it's taking us? Get ready to be surprised. To a book cover. So this, oops, wait a minute, let me shut down Herbst. There we go. So this piece is this is a piece by Margaret called The Sensitive Plant. And it is 25 by 34, and the source is a vintage book cover. Now think about it. These beautiful book covers, right, from the 17th, 18th, 19th century, they are often tooled, like tooled leather. They often have metallic and foil kind of overlay on them, hammered, printed, paper insets, right? It's infinite types of covers. This is the exact cover of a book called The Sensitive Plant. And I actually found the book online. Let me show you. So let's admire this for a minute first, because what I love about this, number one, is that I know it's a book design now. So I absolutely am super drawn to the cover. It also has that very formal garden feel to it, right? Like the Elizabethan garden in England was much more formal than the typical English garden, which is more like the wildflower garden, isn't it? It's a bit wild, and that's the beauty of it. This is a very formal garden with compartments. It's like you're seeing the overview of it. Beautiful symmetry, very William Morris again. It is earlier than that, but with the butterflies in the corner, that simple border really ties in, not making any effort at all to differentiate the border from the composition. They are completely married together, working together. It's just a beautiful, beautiful piece. So let's look at the book. It's a Percy Beth Shelley book, right? Like the poet. So this is a close-up of the book. There are better pictures of it online. But have you noticed lately that something crazy is happening on the internet? And smart, I guess. A lot of websites, like most, have their photos locked in a way that I can't cut and paste them anymore or copy them at all for us here. So there was a better picture of this book, the whole cover of the book, but I couldn't get it to transfer into this medium. So that's a huge problem, and I hope it doesn't continue to be a problem, because that would really affect what we do here. Fingers crossed on that. But this picture I was able to get. So you can see how that's the middle of the book, and you can see it's beautifully tooled and colored. and very different colors than what Margaret chose. So being a Percy Bysshe Shelley book, we know he's a super famous, obviously, poet and writer, right? So I looked up this book because I was interested in the cover. Let's go back to Margaret's cover, and I'll tell you something about this book because it was an interesting find. So I read a review of it. Somebody on Amazon wrote, this book was written in the 1800s and describes how unique this sensitive plant is in a garden of many other plants. You can grow a very sensitive plant called the tickle me plant that moves and closes its leaves and even lowers its branches when it's tickled. So that gave me kind of a clue about the kind of fantasy slash possibly juvenile book that this is, like maybe a sort of children's type book. And then I pulled up the book on another source, and it said Percy Bysshe Shelley, 1792 to 1822, The Sensitive Plant is a delicate fairy fable about ephemeral beauty and the aspiration to follow dreams when the reality of the senses fails. It was published in 1820 in Prometheus Unbound, along with some of Shelley's best-known work. Here, it is reimagined with the hazy watercolor illustrations of prolific children's book illustrator Charles Robinson. That's a very famous name in illustration, the golden age of illustration. In the years of his life were 1870 to 1937. Though paired with Shelley long after his death, okay, so they weren't made together at the same time. Interesting. They are well matched. His black and white illustration reflects the influence of Beardsley. That's another artist we should be looking at. And Walter Crane, also Walter Crane. And his watercolor illustrations have delicacy and sensitivity, greatly helped by the four-color process early in the century as the alternative to lithography. Interesting. I didn't read that part yet. That's interesting. So yeah, four-color process. That lends itself to all kinds of color combinations. It doesn't help with the quality of the reproduction, but it's interesting that you have more colors there. By incorporating lettering into the page design and in his planning of the book as a whole, he developed the arts and crafts tradition of the book as a work of art. Interesting. So let's look at what his, let's just look at the illustrator's work too. So needless to say, it sounds like the sensitive plant has potential to be a bit of a fantasy book, right? Maybe geared for kids and maybe a bit of a fantasy feel. But it looks like a beautiful book. If I see it, I'm going to grab it. If you see it and it's reasonable, grab it, and I'll get it. If you don't want it, I'll buy it from you. But this is an example of the Charles Robinson illustrations that are inside the book. So looking at these beautiful, this is a very high quality image. Looking at these images, many of them would be black and white, of course. This is probably the front plate, like the frontispiece. But this would be a beautiful book to have for the cover, right, that Margaret loves too, but also for what's inside of it. So, so charming. Now this piece, moth alert, is called, not the kind of moth, just the, not the nasty kind, not the sweater kind. Sandra says, I think it was a ginkgo rug as well, looked like a book cover. Ooh, you know, that could have been the ginkgo. You know, that really did. Let's go back and look at that. Let me put this away for a second. We'll come back to seagulls in a minute. And then I'll probably end soon after. I'm flaking it a little. Go figure, right, with that cough medicine. Let's look at ginkgo again. I think Sandra's right. You know, that really does look like a book design, doesn't it? It doesn't say that it is. Otherwise, I would have been sniffing around the internet to look at the original just for curiosity. But that could well be the shape of it, really, is very suggestive of a book. It's like writing Exercise of the Night. What would this book be called, right? Can you think of a great title for this book? If you watched this show back without my mouth running in the background, you could probably come up with some great poems and lines based on the art that you're seeing. It's just such beautiful pieces tonight. This is like the gallery of Margaret's art is just unbelievable. This is her studio, right? So Seagulls is another beauty. 16.5 by 27, and the source is a Japanese painting by Kosan, K-O-S-O-N, Ohara, O-H-A-R-A. Ohara, and I think it's reversed actually. I think it's Ohara Kosan. It looks like it is Ohara Kosan, Ohara Hosan, Ohara Shosan, Okay, so these are maybe all the same person, but different spellings, possibly. Was a Japanese painter and woodblock print designer of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, part of the Shinhanga movement. Um, Interesting. So this isn't, I didn't go down. Oh, yes, I did go down the rabbit hole. Oh, yes, I did. I was just going to say I didn't, but you know me and you know I had to. So I love this piece and I had not heard of this artist before. Shame on me. So I had to look at some of his other designs and I came up with this one, which I think is absolutely whimsical, adorable. This is called Dancing Fox with Lotus Leaf Hat. I mean, isn't this a great composition? Again, this is Ohara Kosan, Koson. So this is another artist you can look up. Plenty of books on Amazon, on eBay, on this artist. Not all super expensive, like collective photo books, but because of the year, because of the age, the years of the life of this artist, these are copyright free. And I thought, man, this is so whimsical. This is half sort of Asian art, right? And half Aesop's fable. It's so cute. I just love it. It's more than cute, isn't it? And then I found this one, which it didn't have a title with it, same artist, but the perspective was so unusual with this piece that I couldn't stop looking at it. If you see in the middle, right, there's like a bird, but you're seeing him from above, and you're seeing like bushes of what look like maybe hydrangeas or something around him. Also, they look like a God's eye view from above, and leaves, right? And I thought, what a neat composition this is. This is a difficult execution, you know, with getting this bird right. I think particularly in rug hooking, right? It's hard enough in paint, but you love the dancing fox, Karen. Oh, lots of those in your neighborhood, right? This is a hard one. I mean, you would have to be real confident that you would get the bird right, because you can see it's difficult to visually clock that bird for what it is when you glance at this piece. It depends on the size of the piece too. What I like about this composition, it's the kind of a composition that if you thought about designing just as a real challenge, right? Not for the faint of heart. If you thought about designing, for example, with a compass, and you fully intended to do this kind of a God's eye view composition from above, and you were going to put in, for example, flowers from above, leaves from above, it would be completely different. It would be very challenging. But you might get a composition like this. I would really struggle again with the bird. I don't know what the solution is. I'm not good enough to be able to come up with something like, oh, you just tilt him this way, or you know, if I were going to do this composition, I think what I would do is have the bird flying, and it would have him break from the look of the piece, or even flying from above, right? Even if you kept the God's eye perspective and you had the bird flying, you lose the roundness and the repetition of the shape, because right now that bird is the same shape as the leaves. And that's part of the interest and the intrigue of this piece, is like, why is that piece so light? Well, it's because it's a body, right? And then you found the thing, you found Waldo, and it's interesting and it's fun to look at. But if I were doing it, I think I wouldn't dare do a piece like this if I didn't have that bird from above, the top of his body with his wings outstretched flying, because then there'd be no chance. Oh, Paula, it's not the you know, there probably are books on Charles Robinson. It was the book that I was looking at was called The Sensitive Plant, and that was a Shelley book. And you know, I didn't look to see if there are books exclusively on Charles Robinson, but I would be shocked if there weren't. So if you like those illustrations, I just ordered a book on the golden age of illustration. And if he was not in it, he is in it. I mean, it's impossible that he's not in it. But those kinds of books are worth looking at. If you love that artist, it's great to pull designs from that era of illustration because they are copyright free. So what I would do if I was interested in that line of thought, I would go on to Amazon. I know Amazon in the news, so aggravating, but big victory today. I would go on to Amazon and I would look up Golden Age of Illustration, and I would look at one of the books that shows you the inside of the book and the table of contents. And I would be sure, I would look for Charles Robinson specifically. You'll find him online searches too. But with those kinds of a books, you get a lot of black and white illustration, because not many illustrations were ever executed in color because they knew they wouldn't be printed in color. But that's a different rabbit hole, and that would be a lot of fun to research. And it does remind me of the feature that Rug Hooking Magazine has right now on those fairy tale rugs, right? all of the McGown teachers just hooked um, um, famous fairy tales and fairy stories, right? We were looking at that on Coffee Time a couple of weeks ago. Reminds me of that. But these are great sources for design, and they would make great compositions. So yeah, I would check that way, because he's all over the place. He's such a well-known name. It'll be easy to find him, and it'll be easy to find lots more of his illustrations too. So let me move away from this and let me just do a little bit, oops, a little bit more doing bad stuff. You can see those frames pop up. You know, my hand is doing stuff. So that perspective wise, this one was absolutely so exciting to me. But this one, same artist, right? So Kosan, I'm sorry, Ohara Kosan. I think this must be the definitive signature piece, right? Because I think we have all seen this piece. This is called Snow at Yanagabashi, 1927 wood block, right? This is certainly one of the most famous wood blocks of all time. I didn't realize that this was this artist that we were talking about and looking at, but this is like the signature piece. This is so beautiful. Karen said, it reminds me of a kitten looking at its reflection as a lion. Oh, interesting. Oh, interesting. Yeah. That last one, the perspective one. So neat. So neat. But Paula, if you see that book called The Sensitive Plant by Percy Bysshe Shelley, I would love to have that book because that cover is just stellar. But if you find it and you love it, you should keep it because it's just beautiful. The books from that era are beautiful, but that is an exceptional binding. And I'm sure that's what attracted Margaret to it, was it's an exceptional binding. Let's look at one more. This is Margaret's piece called Rainforest. How beautiful is this? How beautiful is this? We're going to have to do one more after this, actually. This is 25 by 35. The source is an E.A. Seguri design, Segury. I'm going to circle that because I forgot to research that, and I want to research that. Don't let me forget. Yeah, I'm going to have to research that. I don't know that reference. I do not know that artist or textile designer. It could even be a fashion designer. I will check that out and I'll get back to you on Monday with more about this source. But I should have put these in a, I love this piece, and we'll come back to this. I should have put these in a different order because, for example, this piece called Songbird is by the last artist that we just looked at, right? The one we were just talking about, Ohara Kosan. This is, the source for this is a painting by Ohara Kosan. So those beautiful images we just looked at on that little bridge, right? The snow picture, the bird with a unusual perspective from above, same artist. This comes from the same artist, same source. So I thought, let's maybe finish up the episode with this image because now we've talked about that artist a couple of times. Absolutely beautiful. And even though this piece is an early 20th century piece, doesn't this, and there's a bird in this. Do you see the bird toward the bottom? I wonder if wait a minute. Let me try to hang tight here. I'm going to try to grab it. Let me see if I can. I probably can't because you know me, but let me see if I can grab it a bit better. Come back here. Oh, yeah, see, I made it too big. Hold on. Let me see if I can do this. Tell me if this works. I've never done this live before. Did that just change shape for you? For some reason, that one outsized itself. I had them all perfectly framed. I must have did I do that? There we go. There's the full picture with the bird in it. Now that makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? That is so beautiful. So this is an early 20th century piece. It's so fine, isn't it? Margaret loves, she's very attracted to Asian art in general, to wood blocks particularly, but the idea of silhouettes. And she always uses these in-between colors. What is that background color? It's going to be different from you to me, isn't it? It's like, is this a kind of silvery purple? Is this a kind of mauvey gray? It really is a shapeshifter, and it's going to be different for my eyes to your eyes, and it's special because of that. Margaret loves these in-between colors, and I do too. They are my favorite colors. They're the colors that many people refer to as muddy colors, but they are my favorites because you can turn a purple into a neutral by using this tone. And look at how great this sort of kind of yellowy, russety bird looks against that background. Right? Because on the color wheel, they're opposite each other. It's a hint. It's a hint of both colors, but it's enough to pop them both. Margaret loves silhouette shapes, and I agree. Silhouette shapes are like negatives. They're like floating negatives. Your eye sees them, and it's very restful to look at something with a partial silhouette in the composition because your eye goes, got it, I got it. Um, oh, Patricia's, oh, hey, Patricia, it's been a long time since you checked in. You know, I love you, I miss you, but I know that you're having busy times too. I wanted to let you know that I have this pattern I purchased. Stop it. Really? You have this pattern that you purchased from Margaret. Patricia, is it song? Is it? I didn't know that she did patterns. I didn't know that she did. You know, I don't know. We'll have to check and see if she does, if you're interested in any of these. I did not know that she did patterns. Patricia, do you mean Songbird, the one we're looking at right now? My mom says, is that another bird on the bottom? I don't think so, Mom. What do you think? It could. Oh my gosh. It could be on the middle left. That could be a second bird. Right in the middle on the left, under that second white. No, it's not, is it? I don't know. For me, I'm not seeing a second bird, but it doesn't mean there's not a second bird there. Let me lift the picture, just make sure we're not missing. Oh, no, I'm not going to play that game again. No, homie doesn't want to play that game. I think we're pretty much at the bottom of it, though, truly. I don't see it, Mom, but it might be there. No, it's not muddy at all. But you know what I was going to say was this is an early 20th century piece, but doesn't this remind you of a lot of artists in the 1980s, right? Because of course, when we're in the 1920s, you know that the fashion, the style, the colors from the 1920s almost exactly repeated in the 1980s. So when I see this, I see those huge, oversized Duran Duran style lithographs that people had in waiting rooms, in dining rooms, everywhere. It is that kind of composition, right? Because we borrowed again all those years later from this exact period. Patricia said, you can call her and she will send you one. Yes, it is the Songbird. Patricia, that is fantastic information. I'm so glad you came in with that because there might be people tonight who are going nutso for some of these designs, but they'd like to hook them instead of buy them finished. That is very good information. I'm going to let the pattern only has this one bird. Okay. It probably is. I think that leaf is just very nondescript because of the silhouette quality of it. But you know, the leaves are that dark, dark color, but I can also see gray and dark, dark, dark evergreen in them too. Really smart. You see that tiny pop of that mustardy gold in the center? That is so smart. It brings your eye right there. So good. Yes, the middle left. Maybe. Yeah, I agree, Mom. It looks like it's almost like a smaller bird in the middle on the left. It's hard to tell. It would be a very drunken bird because he's kind of tipped over. But you never know. You never know what bird bath he was drinking out of, right? You never know. So beautiful. Patricia, you killed it at the end there. You got in there with the comment of the night. That is such good information. I want some of these patterns. So I'm going to wait because I know there's probably going to be a rush this weekend with getting in touch with Margaret, as you should. Again, her company is called Mill River Rugs. She's got an Etsy store and she's also got a website. She's very responsive. She is such a nice person. If you remember the video that I did with her, if you go back and look, I should have put it in there, but now I'm tired and I got to go finish a bunch of things. If you Google on the Ribbon Candy Hooking channel, if you search in the videos for Mill River Rugs, you'll see that video pop up. And I was there with my friend Mohair Judy, who I call Mohair Judy because the time before when she went to Margaret's, she literally bought every skein cake of mohair in the entire joint, like all of it. And then when we walked through the door, what do you think the first thing she said was, "Do you have any more mohair?" And Margaret said, "Judy, you do not need any more mohair," because she hadn't even touched the mohair she had in the first place. But it is nice to hoard and collect, and I know Judy feels like one of these days she is going to corner the market on mohair in some amazing piece. I love her in the meantime. I call her Mohair now instead of Judy. But it is a funny video. You'll see what I mean. She's a real character, Judy. But yeah, certainly be in touch. Patricia says you can contact her and ask her if she has a pattern for any rug she shows on her site. And if she has it, you can buy it. And super nice. Oh, excellent. Excellent. Suze, I'll show you that in a minute. I've had that one up a few times. Oh, thank you so much. It's great to have that Patreon support. It's, you know, I hate asking for money and I hate talking about money. It is not my thing. Is it the ghost of Christmas past? Oh, it's the dog. It's Buttons the dog. Teddy, is that you? Yes. Teddy, come say hi. We're logging off. Come say hi to your buddies. Yeah. Don't be weird. Don't be weird. Just say a nice.
Hey, boys. Welcome back to another.
It's mostly girls. I think it's mostly girls.
Yeah. Hey, boys. Welcome back to another.
Okay.
Epic.
We're tired. Yeah, he's not feeling that well. He's. Why did I do that? Right. He was sick. He got. I shouldn't tell you this because it's just the saddest story. At the end of the night, I had to pick him up the other day from school because they called me and they said. He seemed like he was sick and he was showing possible signs of corona. You have to be so careful. He tested negative. We're all negative. But what had happened was he was being bullied at school and he was crying in the classroom and his eyes were red and his nose was running and he got sent to the nurse and sent home. We had to keep him home for 2 days. Now he actually is sick, but I was so angry. Oh, you can imagine how angry I was. I was ready to. It is what it is. So I did a lot of crazy phone calling that day, and I was off my chain in a huge way. But I think we have some of it sorted out now. But it broke my heart that he would be crying in the classroom, right? Like, better not drink cough medicine and go over there because I will take it out on a 10-year-old. I fight like a devil dog for these kids. Suze, I'll tell him you said hi. And this picture, I think I showed it once before. It's worth showing again. My mom got me this for Christmas. This is a town 1 or 2 towns over from where my mom lives called Collinsville, Connecticut. It's the axe making capital of the country at the time, right? During the American Industrial Revolution, but the town still looks very much like this. And this beautiful mill here is a giant antique store now. Giant antique store. I've scored quite a few rugs in there. It's an absolute beauty, but it's a beautiful town. And the river, the Farmington River runs right, no, actually I think it might be the Mad River. I think it's the Mad River. Runs right through the center of town and people are down there with kayaks and it's one of these quintessential New England towns. It's a bit hip, right? It's hip. You can't get a coffee for under like $8, but other than that, there are remnants of this beauty of this old town. We'll let the hipness pass. It'll burn itself out sooner or later, right? Everybody's going to go broke if they keep buying these $8 coffees. So we'll let them have their fun, and then we'll get back in there with the antiques and the walks and all that stuff. It's a beautiful town. Oh, thanks, Becky. It is Sue's, but the thing with that was the teacher had gone to a funeral in the morning, so she missed all that. Because I said, how could he be sent home by the nurse when he had been crying? How could nobody have seen that he was crying in class? Because he's a big boy. He's 10. He doesn't want to cry in class. That's super embarrassing, I mean, I remember in 3rd grade, I peed in my pants, and that followed me right to college. You don't want that kind of thing happening when you're at this age. It's just, I cried and cried all afternoon. I called my mom crying. I was so, so upset. I was just beside myself. It was a good thing I didn't drive over there because I was not in a good frame of mind. Yeah, I know, Patricia. It'll be all right. We got, as a result, the teacher sent me, they don't give information out about other people's numbers. You don't do that anymore. You don't know who the other parents are. You can't get their phone numbers. It's like it's a different world, right? You just don't know who they are. So she gave me a couple parents' numbers that she asked if I could have them. So I'm going to try to set up play dates with him so that he feels like, because he said, and this is the worst thing, I'm going to make myself cry. He said, everybody in the class has friends, and he's like, but I'm nobody's best friend. And I thought, I have to do something about this. This is crazy. So that's a terrible note to go out on, but I'm going to make some play dates and we're going to get it together and it'll be okay. But man, it's just a reminder. It's so important to be kind to people, no matter what, right? Unless they're the enemy. Just kidding. It's always important to be kind to people. Thanks, Kaz. I know. I gave him so many big hugs. Yeah, I'm just catching up on your comments. Oh, is it, Aileen? The Mad River runs right through there, and it runs through an area called Satan's Kingdom. And that's from the era when people would name things after Satan on the idea that, like, if you named it Satan's Fork or Satan's Island or Satan's Kingdom, that Satan would be satisfied and delighted enough with the naming of the piece that he wouldn't bother you, right? So that's why there are so many geographical places from the colonial period that have the name Satan in them. because that was the thinking. It was like a reverse superstitious thing that he would leave you alone if you named enough things after him. But the Matter River right here in Collinsville goes right through Satan's kingdom, and it is a beautiful, beautiful area. Oh, I'm sorry. I told such a sad story at the end. It will work out, because if it doesn't, I'll kill someone. And then I'll be maybe sending you, logging on with a striped outfit on with a very plain background, no art in the background. We'll make it work out. We will. I will fight to the death on this stuff. So it will have to work out. We're going to figure it out. But I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I am nowhere near done talking about Margaret, because Margaret really, a curator is the right word, right? I don't want to hear about people curating my coffee, but Margaret is a curator. She takes us on a trip through Japanese kimonos, through book covers, through textiles, William Morris, sculpture, architecture, everything, Damascus tiles. I mean, all the places that we've been. Oh, the places you go, Dr. Seuss, right? All the places that we've been tonight, we've barely scratched the surface. I know you'll probably go over the weekend to her site and look at some of the others, but on Monday I'm going to pick up again, because I have a lot more to look at together with Margaret. So there might be a spoiler alert if you go in the meantime, but you should. And we'll look together and brainstorm on Monday, look at more of her work, and talk more about it, and get some more of our great ideas going in the sidebar. And I hope that you, Osu says, as a retired teacher, I'm furious. I know. It's so bad. And I'm going to stop. But the thing that the catalyst for it was, they were building 2 Lego towers, right, in a different classroom. And his arch enemy, right, the kid who really has it out for him, grabbed the whole top off Teddy's tower and put it on his tower. And when Teddy reached over to get it back, bad instinct, right? He should have raised his hand and said something, but you make bad decisions in the moment when you're 10. He reached to grab it back, and he slipped, and he knocked the whole tower down. And then it was like, oh, Teddy, you knocked the whole tower down. And then people started calling him names and going, Teddy is like the Grinch that stole Christmas, and Teddy ruined Christmas. And then he went back to the classroom, and he was still crying about this tower thing. And I thought, why is nobody watching? What is going on? And now I know the main teacher was at a funeral, but it's like, who was watching? Was it like Gumby? Was it Ronald McDonald? I mean, what is going on over there? It just makes me furious. Paula, I am so glad to have her to share, and I'm so happy that she lives near enough to me that we can actually visit her in person with the video soon too. So, to make a long story short, too late, I will be back with you on Monday. And if you are anywhere near Cape Cod this weekend, please come out to see me in Dennis on Sunday, 1 to 4 at Salt Yarn. I'm teaching Amish toothbrush. It'll be super, super, super fun. And otherwise, I will see you on Monday for coffee time at noon Eastern Standard Time. We will pick up again with Margaret Arage at Mill River Rugs. In the meantime, check her out. Check her stuff out. The rugs are for sale. And Pat, thank God you logged on and you told us that it's entirely possible that the pattern that you like is for sale too. So something to think about. Let me know how it goes, and I will see you Monday. Happy weekend. Cheers, my dears. Happy April Fool's Day. It's over now. Hopefully all the jokes are over too. Thought he was coming back.